Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about a concert on November the 17th at the Royal Festival Hall, where the Bach Choir will be joined by the Philharmonia Orchestra, Roddy Williams and Elizabeth Watts in a program of Vaughan Williams, including the Sea Symphony, the Garden of Proserpine, and his famous Wasps Overture. And it's such a delight and pleasure to have Roddy Williams here to talk about this and also his relationship, if you like, with the Bach Choir. And Roddy, you've got quite a long history of performing with the Bach Choir, and most particularly, of course, not just, but most particularly the St. Matthew Passion. Do you enjoy working with big choirs and the Bach Choir and so on?
Yeah, yes, I do. And I should come clean here and say that as far as I can remember, my first appearance with the Bach Choir was when I was as a schoolboy treble. And I was one of the Ripieno choirs at the Royal Festival Hall. And I was so young. Now, this is an admission, so, don't tell anybody else this, but I was aware that this Bach Matthew Passion thing was going to go on all day. And I have a feeling there was something on TV that I wanted to watch. And of course, before the days of video recorders, it was going to be either watch it or not. So I think I faked a bit of a sore throat, a bit of a cough. and my parents said, "Oh gosh, Roddy, well, we better not take you there if you're going to be in a cough." And I managed to duck out of that. Now, I had the experience at least of doing the rehearsal in the festival hall and seeing all these people up front and this massive choir all around me. If someone could just have whispered into my ear and said, "Roddy, just be aware of what's going on here and what you're singing, what's actually happening here, because in years to come, that chap standing at the front there, you might actually be him." Perhaps I'd have paid a little bit more attention, maybe stayed for the long run in that day. But so that it was almost my first performance. It wasn't my first rehearsal. It wasn't my first performance with the Bach Choir, but eventually I did come back, as you say, and stand at the front to take part in the Matthew Passion.
And we love it when you do. Actually, can I say at this point also, we're absolutely thrilled that you're just becoming a vice president of the Bach Choir, which is
not as thrilled as I am. That's a wonderful thing to be able to sort of cement our association in this way. It's really great stuff.
Yeah, it is wonderful news. Just moving on to things that are a little bit more personal in a sense. I mean, you've obviously a huge repertoire you have of so many things, and opera and lieder and so on. Have you got some sort of favorite choral works? Because also you've been a choral singer yourself over your early part of your career. So have you got particular pieces that you have a particular love for?
Well, it won't surprise you to know that the Bach Passions are very high on my list, particularly in the St. John Passion, more so than the Matthew Passion. There's not so much for the baritone to do, but what I enjoy is being a part of it, being in amongst it and witnessing it from right in the middle, from the beginning to end. So that's the thing. It won't surprise you either to know that the Sea Symphony, the Vaughan Williams Sea Symphony, is a favorite of mine for a variety of different reasons. Partly because it's been with me so long. I remember being terrified of it at the beginning and, not knowing when to come in and, having to, just watch my P's and Q's and make sure it was all correct. Now it's such an old friend. I just relish being inside it again for the same reason, being inside that massive wall of sound when the brass and the choir first make their first entry. So those giants of the repertoire are personal to me. And then finally, I would probably just mention the War Requiem by Britten as being a piece. Again, my function in the War Requiem with the tenor soloist and the chamber orchestra is to be a sort of commenting group from the side. But the bits that get my hair standing on end are the overwhelming moments with the full orchestra, the full chorus, and then sometimes organ, and then off stage this and off stage that. Though that piece is very special to me for again those reasons and more.
Yeah, I mean it's and of course I don't know if you know, but the Bach Choir were the choir that Britten used in his recording of the work when he first recorded it on Decca.
That Decca recording, that famous Decca recording, yeah.
and it was the Bach Choir which David Wilcox prepared for Britain, and so it's a work again very close to their hearts. I think I totally agree. It's just one of those extraordinary canvases on which he was creating. I mean, just changing actually the way we would even consider big works.
Yes.
It's absolutely on a scale not known previously, I think. Not in this country anyway. I mean, because Tolerate and Guru Leader and the rest of it, but you know what I mean. So just with the Bach Choir in mind, I mean, it could be St. Matthew, I don't know, but there's a question was asked, have you particular, you might say no, particular performances or a performance that you remember that you could recall? I mean, but you did so, I would understand if you didn't, but.
No, but you will recall this, and I have a feeling you know the answer to this because you were conducting at the time. Of course, there's the performance of the Matthew Passion at the Festival Hall that I recall with the Bach Choir, because we didn't finish it.
Yeah.
My good friend James Gilchrist was singing the Evangelist, and he was seated behind me, in amongst the continuo, so I couldn't see whatever messages he was flashing to you as the conductor. I was sitting right beside you, and I could hear something going on behind me, and all of a sudden I heard my good friend get up and say, "I'm terribly sorry, I don't think I can continue." That's not a very good impression of James Gilchrist, but he just got up and left the stage. And we all sat there thinking, what's going on? And you left the stage to go and see what's happening. But by which time he'd already checked himself into St. Thomas's Hospital. And I remember after all of that, you just came on and you said to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're, as you see, we're a little bit indisposed here." And of course, it was being recorded for broadcast, so the stakes were high. And you said, "So we're just going to go from Mache dich to the end, and then we'll stop." And it was Jeremy White who was playing Christus, who was singing Christus that day. It was one of those few days that Christus has managed to walk away, just picked up his sandals and thought, "Oh, well, thank you very much. I'll go and get the bus home then." And when you ask the question, this wasn't possibly the answer you were thinking of, because you were thinking of a musical highlight, of which there have been, of course, many. But that sticks in my mind because it was extraordinary and it was very human, not least because by the time we finished and I went to St. Thomas's Hospital to go and find James and see how he was, he had already been seen and checked out.
Yes.
And I came back up the road towards the Royal Festival Hall, and he was going the other way with his suitcase on its rollers, and on his way to catch the train home, because by that point they'd sorted him out. It was some sort of not a panic attack as such, but some sort of a seizure, tunnel vision and things like that. They checked him through and said, "All right, mate, you're off. We need that bed. Go home." So I shook his hand and away we went. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, I never forget that. Not least hoping, of course, when he told me that he had to leave the stage, he thought he might have been experiencing a stroke, actually.
Yes.
And of course,
he's a doctor. He'd been a doctor, so he knows not to muck about when you get tunnel vision like that. Absolutely. And then texted me a little while after, saying, "I'm terribly sorry," but I said, "Well, no, because you didn't know that in fact, yes,
it's actually migraine that was setting in."
Yeah. Yes.
And those are terrible things. But yes, well, there we are. We all survived that somehow.
We all survived, including Christus. We all survived. But of course, we had Christus down the next year. Don't worry, everybody. Justice was done, as it were. So
I got my knuckles wrapped for not having tenors being able to sing either Evangelist or the arias. So
well, you say that because don't forget it was on the radio. There was a moment, David, when I was sitting there on stage and I was looking at the Evangelist part, and I thought, I could probably give this a go. I think I know it well enough. I could probably give this a go. And I started looking further. And I thought, no, actually, that looks really hard. Actually, do you know what? No, I think I'll just sit this one out. Yeah. And, not live on the radio, no.
And someone turned to me and said, "Well, couldn't you do it?" I said, "No." Simply not.
That'll be a no. Thank you very much. No, I'm with you on that one.
No, I know my place. Anyway, it was one of those, wasn't it? So there we go.
It was one of those. Yeah.
Anyway, So you're currently, I mean, you're obviously one of the busiest people in the music business. When you really, you're on the airways the whole time doing concerts and broadcasts and so on. So just what have you got on between now, here we are in mid-September, and November when we meet for Sea Symphony?
Well, I'm about to go to Bergen in Norway for a project that is going to be very dear to you. You'll love this. I'm about to sing Delius's Massive Life. And part of my preparation has been your recording of it, because it's a piece that, as you well know, doesn't get out very often.
Fantastic, isn't it?
It's extraordinary. It's huge. It's amazing. I did do it once with Huddersfield Choral Society some time ago, but that was long enough ago for me to be preparing it basically afresh. And it's so huge in one sense that when I started work on it, I had this feeling, as you would when you look up at a tall mountain and think, how am I going to climb that? And I felt very small in comparison. I felt very afraid of it. And through working on it a little bit of the day, bit by bit, and through listening to your recording and just getting to know it, not just the baritone bits, but all of it, to get to know the piece as a whole. It's one thing to sit at my piano and try and work through Delius's harmonies. You can't see the wood for the trees. I need to hear how the whole thing goes, how the baritone part fits into the whole canvas. And then again, with the benefit of having your recording there, it's just helped me to get a sense of the bigger picture. And now it's beginning to feel more like a friend rather than this huge foe. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful to know. Because I just adore that work, as you can understand, because I was pushing to record it, because it's just not heard, and it's simply not performed enough. But for the reasons you've just pointed out, by the way. But when it comes to listening, actually analyzing it, as I've also done, is to know that Delius makes incredibly good judgments in terms of harmonic movement. It's just so well crafted, I feel, in its harmonic movement. It's kind of captivating to me in the way he can make things sound so different. I mean, it doesn't sound English to me particularly.
No, it doesn't. That's the thing. It doesn't have that the ring of Stanford through it in some way that we're talking about. I'm mentioning the Sea Symphony just a moment ago, the Vaughan Williams thing. Vaughan Williams is part of progression that goes, from Purcell and from before that Tallis, right through Purcell, right through Elgar and Handel, even a bit Elgar, and then into Stanford and Parry, then into Vaughan Williams and beyond. And Delius has just stepped right off that escalator. He's just on his own on the side there.
And there he is composing it in Paris, which at the time was, had that, what can I call it, the shadow of Wagner all over it. But just the way it was sort of everyone was feeling they had to sort of bow to the great man in some way or other. And Fauré did, of course, brilliantly, actually, a lot of the time. Debussy actually stopped doing it.
Yes.
La Demoiselle Élue, for instance, which is one of my favorite pieces, it's kind of French Wagner. And if you can have such a thing. And then, of course, then you've got Delius. And I say to people, well, I think you're misunderstanding that. Actually, he's so imbued in this language of what was going on in Europe at the time, that's what makes him sound different and feel different.
And speaking to that, just because it's heavily on my mind at the moment, of course, we're doing it in Norway, the home of Grieg. So there's this thing that Grieg recognized something in him, and they met, and Grieg championed him. But also there's this influence of when Delius was in Florida, amongst the orange plantations, and listening to people singing going past. So there are these other influences from right around the globe that just cause his music to be different. You switch on the radio, you switch on Radio 3, and there's Delius playing. It's about a quarter of a second that it takes to just go, oh, that's Delius. I may not know the piece, but oh, that's Delius. He has his house, his own style, which is akin to no one's. I
agree. Well, wonderful. So that's going to be taking you quite a lot of the time up to November, presumably.
Oh, that project is the next couple. That's basically the rest of this month. Once I get to October, I'm working on a recital program celebrating Vaughan Williams's anniversary, and this is something I've had great delight in curating, putting together, and now I'm working on it. So imagine the first half is a party of Vaughan Williams's teachers, his friends, and his pupils, and I've got a sprinkling of songs by Vaughan Williams, and in the second half, I'm going to sing the songs of travel. The first half is a song by Ravel, a song by Bruch, Max Bruch. You learned from, their folk song. There's a folk song that Max Bruch has done, and I've got that. And the Ravel song is a folk song too. And then we haven't got long enough in this podcast for me to list all the composers, but as you can imagine, Stanford and Parry, there, Charles Wood's in there as well. And you've got his mates, Ivor Gurney, Butterworth is there, and Herbert Howells, and all these people. And then his pupils, my goodness, there's a long list. And you know what? I had devised this party, this sort of virtual party in my mind. And I was about to press send when I realized in a sudden flash there were no women on the program. And can you imagine if Vaughan Williams had opened the door at his party, as it was his birthday party, and discovered a room full of men and no women, he'd probably turned right round and gone home, because he was a man who liked female company. And so I went back, I started again, and I've got Ina Boyle there, Ruth Gibbs, Rebecca Clark, Elizabeth McConkie, and I've got all sorts of names. And then my last little thing, the very final song of the whole evening, after the songs of travel in the second half, is Vaughan Williams' setting of Ursula's poem Menelaus. So the last poem of the evening, the last song of the evening, is like her gentle hand on his shoulder saying, "Time to go home, dear." It's been a wonderful evening. Time to go home. So
whereabouts are you recording this as well as performing it?
Not as yet, not to my knowledge. Things can change. Hold on to your hat. We start at the Wigmore Hall on I think that is the 13th of October. So I think it's the day before Vaughan's birthday on the 14th. I think I've got that right. And then we take it all over the shires. It goes to all sorts of different music societies around the bit. I know Malvern's one of them, Oxford another. We're taking it to Gloucester. So I'll have missed a few off, but Bath I think it goes to. So there's various different places that we're taking it to, because once one's put this amount of effort into a recital program, you want to kind of let it fly. So
wonderful, how amazing. So and then anything before November?
Yes, just before I see the Bach Choir, literally the last thing before then is I'll have been to Japan briefly. For, the BBC Symphony Orchestra take their proms, the concept of the proms, out to different places. A couple of years ago, before COVID, we went to Dubai and did the proms within a week. It gives us a wonderful excuse that the final concert is the last night of the proms. So we're taking it to Japan, and then literally the night or two before I see you, the CBSO are doing the 5 mystical songs.
Oh, lovely.
Which I'm about 45 minutes south of Birmingham, where I live here in the Midlands. So I count that as a local gig. And the mystical songs, as you well know, because I sang them with you and the Bach Choir and the Festival Hall. That's again a favorite of mine. Just I've sung that song. I've sung those songs since I was an academical clerk at Magdalen College at Oxford, with my little pipsqueak baritone voice, and now I sing them with my slightly bigger pipsqueak baritone voice. So it's a great joy. So,
oh, Roddy, thank you so much for letting us know all of this. It's fascinating. And just to say to everyone who will be listening to this, do come along on the 17th of November to the Royal Festival Hall to hear Roddy Williams in the Sea Symphony, along with Elizabeth Watts, the Philharmonia Orchestra, and of course, the Bach Choir. Thank you.